Title: The Science Behind Kathleen Folbig's Release, Rare Genetic Mutation Identified. After being convicted of killing her 4 children, Kathleen Folbig has been released from prison. A pardon was granted after extensive scientific and medical evidence indicated a rare genetic mutation, CALM2G114R, in the calmodulin-2 gene, which only affects 1 in 35 million people, could have led to the deaths of 2 of her children. While mutations in the calmodulin genes are extremely rare, they are not rare in the Folbig family. Genetic testing revealed the mutation in Kathleen and her daughters, and not in her sons. The discovery of this rare genetic condition has revolutionized the field of human genetics. Cheaper to call Vatican City. Why is it so expensive to make phone calls from prison? Advocates are condemning the high cost of phone calls for incarcerated Australians, citing the potential negative impact on prisoners' mental health and family connections. In some Victorian jails, a 12-minute phone call can cost as much as $7, a price that critics argue puts a financial burden on families seeking to stay connected with their loved ones. In contrast, some U.S. states have introduced reforms to make prison phone calls free. The URIC Justice Commission has received evidence that the high prison call costs unfairly impact First Nations people, who are overrepresented in the Australian justice system. Title: Mock Referendum Empowers Indigenous Voters Ahead of National Poll. Western Australia's Aboriginal population has the lowest enrolment rate in the country, but a new initiative may improve the numbers. The Australian Electoral Commission has teamed up with community groups in the Goldfields and Pilbara regions to run mock referendums across 6 towns. The plan is to help Indigenous voters understand the referendum process, enrol to vote, and identify misinformation before the voice to Parliament is put to people. The initiative has boosted enrolment rates by 3%, with efforts to increase enrolment including the hiring of community staff and translating the upcoming referendum question into Aboriginal languages. Boy dead, 2 still critical as Geraldton house fire investigation continues. A devastating house fire in Geraldton, Western Australia on Thursday has resulted in the death of a 13-year-old boy. 3 boys, aged between 12 and 14, were in critical condition after the blaze, and 2 remain at Perth Children's Hospital where they are receiving treatment. The cause of the fire is yet to be determined, however, police have confirmed that an accelerant was involved. Arson squad detectives are leading the investigation and have spent most of Friday combing the scene. Our thoughts are with the family and community impacted by this devastating event. Title: Lack of natural light in apartment turned it into a dungeon, leaving tenant with no options. Hugh Watson's bright and sunny apartment in Newtown turned into a dungeon due to black scaffolding that blocked the light after the building's construction. Although updated residential tenancy laws specify that properties must have adequate lighting, tenants have limited options if the light source is blocked after they sign the lease. Watson requested a 50% rent reduction, but his landlord and real estate agent declined. The lack of light affected his mental health and work. Natural light is essential for mental health and physical well-being, prompting researchers to study how to set minimum standards for homes and workplaces. Paying $100 million more, Opal operator hits out at government's flawed Meeki tender process. Cubic, the operator of the Opal card system in New South Wales, has accused the Victorian government of conducting a flawed tender process to overhaul the Meeki ticketing system. In a letter of complaint to Premier Daniel Andrews, Cubic claimed that the winning bidder, Conduent, was given preferential treatment and that errors during procurement would cost taxpayers for years. Cubic's bid was reportedly $100 million cheaper than Conduent's. The letter requested that the process be reviewed and the result be re-evaluated. Conduent has yet to introduce technology allowing commuters to use their phones instead of tickets in major cities. Title: Having older siblings could reduce the risk of food allergies in babies. Having older siblings that bug you could actually be good for your health, according to a recent study. Researchers from Barwon Health, Deakin University, and Murdoch Children's Research Institute discovered that children with older siblings had a more mature gut microbiome, which protects them from allergic disease. The study used data from more than 1,000 mother-infant pairs from the Geelong region, who were tested for allergies to 5 different foods at 1 year of age. The findings indicated that participants with older siblings had a decreased risk of food allergy. The study sheds light on how siblings can positively impact each other's health. Title: Endangered woylies at risk of losing survival skills due to rapid evolution in sanctuaries. A new study has found that rapid evolution in protected havens is causing threatened native marsupials like the woylie to lose essential survival traits, potentially endangering their long-term survival. The study, published in the Biological Conservation Journal, found that woylies living in a fenced-off sanctuary in Western Australia lost essential anti-predator responses that they would need to survive outside of the sanctuary. These unintended consequences have implications for other threatened animals and long-term plans to reintroduce threatened species back into the wild. The researchers suggest that there needs to be a rethink of conservation strategies to address these risks. Title: Tasmanian Premier denies conflict of interest in $1.2 million distillery grant. Tasmania's Premier, Jeremy Rockliff, has denied any wrongdoing in the decision to award a $1.2 million grant to a rum distillery linked to a Liberal Party staffer. The opposition leader, Rebecca White, questioned the Premier over the grant, arguing that the process should have been competitive and open to other businesses. The distillery is headed by Tarrant Dirksen, the brother of Justin Dirksen, who is a former director of the distillery and an advisor to the State Development Minister. Mr. Rockliff has stated that several caveats were put in place before the funding would be granted, including the distillery contributing $500,000 towards the project. Title: Widows' distress compounded by delays to late husband's super payouts. Widows across Australia are struggling to gain access to their late husband's superannuation payouts. Carolyn Hocking experienced a 15-month wait before receiving her husband's payout, making it challenging for her to survive financially. The ordeal was distressing, and the process was complicated, as paperwork had to be submitted via mail instead of email. Lauren Hall, another widow, had a similar experience, where many phone calls and emails went unanswered, causing her and her children financial stress. CBU's Super, the fund in question, is under review, and Super Consumers Australia is advocating for simplified claims processes to make the process less complicated for grieving families. Title: Northern Territory government lowers cap on pokies while approving additional machines in Alice Springs. The Northern Territory government has announced a modest reduction of the cap on pokies in the region and has permitted additional gaming machines to be installed in Alice Springs pubs and clubs. The decision comes after 9 months of halting the approval of new pokies in the town's community venues, following widespread community backlash. Despite the cap being lowered to 1,659, 20 additional licenses may still be granted under the new cap, with applications for 20 additional machines at 2 of Iris Capital's Alice Springs venues still pending. The government also announced that casinos would soon be subject to a new code of practice that prioritizes harm minimization. Title: 5 key findings in Ben Roberts-Smith's defamation case. Former SHASH soldier Ben Roberts-Smith's defamation case against 9 newspapers has been dismissed by a federal court judge, who found he was not an honest and reliable witness in parts of the case. The judgment also found that Mr. Roberts-Smith lied and colluded with another witness and was intimidatory, threatening and controlling. Here are 5 findings from the 726-page judgment. The murder allegation against Mr. Roberts-Smith was found to be substantially true. He made up a false story about a soldier being removed from his team. He posted threatening letters to a former SHASH colleague. He was not an honest and reliable witness, and he denied burying USBs containing crucial evidence. Hashtags. Report finds Morrison government's Administration of Health program fell short of ethical requirements. The Australian National Audit Office has slammed the Morrison government's administration of a $2 billion health and hospital grant funding program. The Community Health and Hospitals program, set up before the 2019 election, was found to be ineffective and fell short of ethical requirements. Of the 171 projects attached to the program, only 2 were deemed highly suitable, and almost half were based in marginal electorates. The report made 4 recommendations, including improving reporting systems and ensuring grants are awarded according to guidelines. Health Minister Mark Butler has ordered a review of remaining projects to ensure taxpayer money is spent properly. Boy, 3, shot during West Bank clash between Israelis and Palestinians dies. A 3-year-old Palestinian boy shot by Israeli forces during clashes in the occupied West Bank last week has died of his wounds, Israeli and Palestinian officials say. The Israeli Sheba Hospital, where the child was being treated after being shot on Thursday local time, said he died despite extensive efforts of the medical team. In a statement, the Palestinian Health Ministry said it was informed of the death of the child Muhammad Haytham al-Tamimi, 3, from the village of Nabi Saleh. The incident has sparked outrage, with calls for an immediate international investigation into this crime and other crimes against Palestinian children. Former U.S. Vice President Mike Pence to enter Republican presidential race in challenge to Donald Trump. Former U.S. Vice President Mike Pence has declared his candidacy for the 2024 Republican presidential race. This sets up a challenge to former President Donald Trump, with whom Pence had a falling out after the 2020 elections. Pence's campaign filed a declaration of candidacy on Monday with the Federal Election Commission. Pence will launch his campaign with a video and speech in Iowa on Wednesday. Pence is a staunch social conservative and has warned against the growing populist tide in the party. He has distanced himself from Trump since the January 6 Capitol attack. Pence joins a growing field of Republican candidates, which includes Trump, Nikki Haley, and Tim Scott. Title: Republican House panel seeks to hold FBI director in contempt of Congress over Biden family dealings records. The Republican head of a U.S. House of Representatives panel, James Comer, has announced that he will pursue contempt of Congress proceedings against FBI Director Christopher Wray for failing to hand over information on President Joe Biden's family dealings. The move comes after the FBI refused to release an unclassified record to the House Oversight Committee's custody, stating that the allegation of a $5 million bribery scheme with a foreign national involving Mr. Biden had not been disproven and was part of an ongoing investigation. The FBI argues that it attempted to accommodate the committee's request for information. Title: 2 more teenagers charged over fatal stabbing in Sunshine. 2 more teenagers have been charged following the death of 16-year-old Passorm Lehim last month in a brawl in Melbourne's West. An 18-year-old Burnside Heights boy and a 17-year-old Caroline Springs boy have been charged with various offences including causing serious injury, conduct endangering serious injury, and affray among others. The incident involved groups from different schools, and police have voiced concerns about retaliatory violence following the stabbing. A 17-year-old Hillside boy has already been charged with murder in connection to the deadly stabbing. All 3 teenagers have been remanded in custody and will appear in court at a later date. Live moment: Kathleen Folbig's lawyers and best friend speak about her release from prison. Kathleen Folbig's lawyers and best friend are set to address the media about her release from prison on Monday. Ms. Folbig, who was convicted of killing her 4 young children in 2003, was recently pardoned after a special inquiry found new genetic evidence that raised doubts about her guilt. Spanish scientist Carola Vinuesa, whose research linked the CAM2 gene mutation to the deaths of Ms. Folbig's daughters, said the case was a celebration of science. Ms. Folbig is now residing with her friend in Grafton, New South Wales. India's train crash survivors speak out, haunted by it. Survivors of the Odisha train crash in India recount their harrowing experience. Gura Pillai, a labourer, had been thrown out of his train carriage upon impact, landing next to twisted metal. The crash, which killed 275 people and injured hundreds more, may have been caused by signalling failure, according to investigators. The disaster has left survivors struggling to comprehend the suddenness of the tragedy. Some are haunted by the cries of children and the sight of corpses. Meanwhile, families gather outside hospitals waiting to identify and collect the bodies of their loved ones. Burke dismisses business campaign against same job, same pay laws. Employment Minister Tony Burke has dismissed a national campaign run by mining, construction, farming and other business groups against the government's planned same job, same pay laws. Although the legislation to force companies to pay labor hire at the same rate as direct employees is not yet in existence, business groups have criticized the government's proposal. Burke has argued that the concerns raised by the business groups are incorrect, and that the government has not even finalized its policy. The ads run by business groups on TV warned against proposed workplace reforms to close a loophole allowing some employers to suppress wages using labor hire. Hashtags. Title: Australia's citrus industry rejoices as China-Australia trade list gets updated. Australia's citrus industry has expressed its delight following the recent update of the list of orchards, packhouses, and treatment facilities allowed to export to China. This is the first time these lists have been updated since 2020 for stone fruit, mangoes, cherries, and 2021 for citrus. The new list published on the General Administration of Customs of the People's Republic of China's website means that establishments can now trade. CEO of Citrus Australia, Nathan Hancock, welcomed the new development and said that it would lead to a significant economic boost for the industry. Man charged with murder over fatal stabbing outside Alice Springs pub. A 23-year-old man has been charged with the murder of a 32-year-old man who was fatally stabbed outside an Alice Springs pub last week. The incident happened outside the Todd Tavern, with the victim dying that afternoon as a result of his injuries. 2 women were also treated in hospital after the incident. The accused has been in police custody since Thursday and was remanded to appear in the Alice Springs local court today. Police reported that initial investigations indicated the victim and alleged offender were known to each other. Apple unveils a new AR headset. Here's what to know about Vision Pro. Tech giant Apple has finally unveiled its long-rumored headset, the Vision Pro, during its annual developers conference in California. The device will cost $3,499 United States dollars, $5,286, which is more than 3 times the cost of the most expensive headset from its competitor, Meta. The headset will toggle between virtual and augmented reality, equipped with 12 cameras, 6 microphones, and various sensors, which users can control with their eyes and hand gestures. The device will be available in the US early next year, with other countries to follow later in 2024. Title: Finnish driver slapped with $195,796 speeding fine based on income. A Finnish driver has been fined a whopping $195,796 for going 30 km per hour over the speed limit. The amount is based on the offender's income, a Finnish system that ensures everyone is treated equally. Anders Wickloff, the driver, shared his regret for speeding, as this is not the first time he has been caught. Wickloff's company is worth over $10 million, and he has previously paid speeding fines of €63,680 and €95,000. Finland is known for its high fines based on income, and this hefty fine serves as a reminder to all drivers to obey traffic rules. Title: Australian crop production forecast down due to drier season. The Australian Department of Agriculture, Fisheries and Forestry (ABARES) reported a 34% fall in crop production for 2023-24 to 44.9 million tonnes due to the end of La Niña and expected El Niño conditions. The ABARES Executive Director, Dr. Jared Greenville, said the El Niño event and positive Indian Ocean dipole could pose significant downside risks to the winter cropping season for the year. The agricultural production outlook also expects a 14% reduction in the value of agricultural production across the country, while export earnings may drop by 17% to $65 billion in 2023-24. However, the horticulture industry is expected to rise by $1.5 billion to a record $18 billion. Hashtags. Title: Pilot of plane that crashed over Washington, D.C. appeared slumped over, officials say. The pilot of a private plane that crashed in a remote area of Virginia, killing 4 people, was seen slumped over and unresponsive before the crash, according to 3 U.S. officials. The New York-bound plane had taken an erratic flight path, turning around over Long Island before inexplicably flying directly over the nation's capital, which led to fighter jets being scrambled. The remote terrain around the crash site has posed significant challenges to the investigation, with investigators expected to be on the scene for at least 3 to 4 days. The cause of the crash is still under investigation.